The cool, damp days of spring are nearly behind us. The days for lettuce, spinach, radishes, and all those crops that seem to thrive in the softer weather. But ahead of us, just beginning to open, is the warmer part of the year. Beans climbing, squash stretching, and flowers spilling over the edges. Welcome to PDX Garden Home. This driveway garden is located in the maritime climate of the Pacific Northwest. Today, I'm planting one final round of cool weather veggies to see if I can squeeze them in before the season turns too warm. It may fail and bolt, but we're gonna give it a go. Then we'll shift gears and start planting some of those warm weather vegetables and flowers. With a little warmth and patience, they'll soon begin to transform this space. So come along and let's garden. Okay, well, I'm planting succession plantings of a lot of stuff that I already have in the garden. It'd be too hot for this to succeed, but I want to give it a try anyway. So I'm going to start with some romaine lettuce here. Make some little indentations. I don't need deep holes. These are very small seeds. And when you have lettuce seeds, you usually have lots and lots of lettuce seeds. And as my normal process, I will throw at least a couple of seeds. I probably won't be able to grab them that precisely, so I might end up with like 3 seeds or more in each hole. But I'm gonna put, I guess the point is, I'm gonna put more than 1 seed in each hole. And I'm gonna do 24 here. I'm doing a lot. 24 is a lot for what I would use in one round like that. The reason I'm going to do a lot is because I can. We've got so many seed, and about a lot of them failing due to the heat and bolting and stuff like that. So I want to give myself plenty of options at the front end. Because these don't really require much. Oops, see, there you go. I ended up with 3 going in that hole over there. Again, because these are very small seeds, I'm just barely covering these romaine seeds with just a little bit of soil there. Romaine lettuce seeds. Okay, so I'm not going to plant as many of these ruby red leaf lettuce seeds as I planted of the romaine lettuce, because my family really likes the romaine lettuce, so we would eat a lot of that. This one is more, I've been growing some of it in the garden. It looks wonderful. We've been eating it. It's good. It tastes good, but at this stage I'm growing it for variety. So I'm just going to do 1/6 here. Jeez, so many lettuce seeds. More lettuce seeds than you can really plant. Okay. And now let's see if I'll grab the correct soil, the correct potting mix. Grab the potting mix on my left to sprinkle on top to cover these up here. Okay, good on those. And now what I want to do is I want to do some beets. But before I do that, I need to do tags. Save just that little bit of writing time there. Okay, now I'm going to plant some beets. I've got the Detroit red beets here to plant, and I already have a bunch in the garden that are going well. It'll take probably still a little bit of time for them to swell up and really give me good beets. So I'm going to just plant my succession round here. The holes will be a little bit bigger because these are bigger seeds. Beet seeds are a bit bigger there. And this one, I think that I'm going to plant several seeds per hole, not purely for backup purposes, but actually when I transplant the beets, I will actually end up planting the whole thing, including the multiple seedlings in one plug, into their eventual homes, and call that multi-sowing. So I'm multi-sowing the beets, and so that they'll actually grow several together. They'll be joined at the hip, so to speak, and then they may, in fact, my experience is they most often do mature at different times, even though they're kind of right next to each other. So what I do is I twist the one out that's ready to go, and I leave the other two there in the garden, and then I can twist those out or pull them out as a case may be when they're ready. You know, it doesn't always work. Maybe you get out of the 3, you get one nice one, and then the other 2 are dinky or didn't work out. But you know, if I just plant one in one hole, in the case that beet doesn't necessarily work out, a whole row of beets, that is to say, it's not that every in the row is not going to all work out for me. So I don't think my failure rate is any worse multi-sowing, and it is pretty space efficient to multi-sow. Okay, just close up those little holes there. So I've got times 6, I got 18 of the Detroit red beets. Thing my family would eat, but they're picky about, they don't want to deal with the small ones because, you know, you clean them and take the off or whatever, and that becomes no fun if you're doing it with lots of little beets, and so they only want the bigger ones. And so my success in growing beets that are easier to deal with in the kitchen are hit and miss. Okay, label's done. Plop that in, and now I'm gonna grow some golden beets. "12 cells of the golden beets instead of 18. Leave room in this tray for doing some onions, some scallions or bunching onions, that is. Okay. The touchstone gold beets that I'm planting here. Still have a little bit left. I think my next planting will be what I'm planting for fall harvest. This one isn't intended to be a fall harvest, but it might carry over that long. You know, it's May now, and so just depending on how things go, it's not inconceivable that the beets that I'm planting now don't work out until fall. We will see. Scallions or bunching onions. I like growing these, the red-tipped ones. Onion seed is very small. Bed. I'll also multi-sow these, so several seeds, and then I will plant the whole plug with all the seedling, all of them into the hole, let them grow together. I find that works for bunching onions just fine. Actually, it works for works for my shallots, my bunching onions, works for my bulb onions as well. So even though it looks like I'm only sowing 12 cells here, because I'm putting several seeds in each cell, it's more like 36 bunching onions. Distort where they're at, so I'm going to sprinkle some extra potting mix on them. Watered the tray before I started putting seeds in it, but I need to throw a little bit more water. I'll put a little bit more water on the top, sprinkle some water on top. Let me do my label first. Whoa, this one's broke. Okay. Put a humidity dome on there. So this will actually go back in the garage, even though it's nice and warm here in May. Right now, the nights aren't warm. And stuff doesn't necessarily, lettuce, onions, beets, it doesn't necessarily need warm nights in order to germinate, but it will be faster if I'll be able to keep an eye on it more controlled if I do this the garage, and I can also use the humidity dome. I wouldn't use the humidity dome out in the sun. If you guys have done that before, but years and years ago, double whammy, because I had a greenhouse and I left the humidity domes on my seed trays in the greenhouse, and you know, they got steamed and or fried. the humidity domes themselves were warping and melting. It was a total disaster mess or whatever. So as a general rule, I'm like, okay, I don't leave humidity domes out in the natural sun. I only use them if I'm growing indoors. So that gets back to my main point. I'm going to put this in the garage until they germinate, so that I can use the humidity dome and I can have total control over their nighttime, not total control, but I can give them better nighttime temperatures and have more control over kind of how they're doing, make sure their moisture and all that's correct and everything. And then once they've germinated, you know, they're kind of on their way, move these into an outdoor tray, and then I will have them in my outdoor hardening off area time of year that we're in. So my garage is really now going to turn into a germination zone rather than an actual like zone. In the winter, in the late winter, early spring, germination / early growing zone, but now it's just a germination zone. Okay, I'm rambling on all that, so hopefully that makes some sense. Well, have you ever had one of those plants or bushes that you've planted years ago and it never really turned out the way you intended, but you just won't give up and you let it keep going and going and going? That's is for me. This was a wolfberry, which I thought was supposed to be a goji berry, something I actually planted from seed in the old garden, and then I was able to transfer over, and it has never any kind of goji berry. It's had little purple flowers very sparingly in the last couple of years. Been here for a good 3-4 years now, I think. It grows pretty vigorously all over the place. It's a bit of a mess, and it's also got thorns on it, and right now it's overshadowing one of my blueberry plants. So I'm going to cut this back. Actually, I'm going to cut it all the way back to the ground as I'm thinking about this, and then consider the possibility of bringing a shovel in here and digging it out. I'm not going to do that right now or today, but we'll cut it back to the ground and then see if I feel inspired to do that. So that's what this is about. Well, the time has come to plant some summer crops, things beyond the tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. If you've seen my prior videos, you know I'm well into those. But what I haven't planted yet are squashes, winter and summer squashes, uh, cucumbers, melons, corn. On the flower side, zinnias and sunflowers. And what I'm starting with are actually beans, and in particular runner beans. And the runner beans that I'm planting are actually runner beans that I saved from what I grew last year. So I'm hopeful that these will grow well. Scarlet runner beans, I'm hopeful that these will grow well this year. Most people, or I would say many people, do not pre-sprout their beans in trays like this, germinate them in cell trays. They plant them straight into the ground. And even though I've done a whole video on my slug control methods, I don't even trust what I've done to minimize slugs to good germination on things without losing them to pests and things, and I just don't like to take those chances. So whenever I can control the germination process, I do, and I can control successfully the germination process of beans. Folks think you just can't transplant beans, but I found that I can, no problem. I can control the germination process of beans. The only thing I can't control the germination process of in my garage under lights are carrots and turnips or like radish, that kind of stuff. For example, will fork and grow all kinds of weird ways if you try to germinate them and then transplant them. But back to beans here. Most bean packets and everything will tell you that not to transplant, that don't like their roots disturbed. I interpret don't like the roots disturbed to mean be very gentle with the roots, which is what I do. I am very gentle with the roots. So yeah, well, I've got quite a lot of seed here. That's good. These are not my normal 6-cell planters. Normally I have those kind of little 1-inchers. These are much bigger ones that I've saved from nurseries when I've gotten various things. Now, runner beans are a pole bean, so they'll grow nice and tall, and you can grow them on bean sticks or bean poles. Grow pole beans, but after I took out my beans from the cabinet, I realized that the scarlet runner bean is the only pole bean that I'm planting as of right now, because it's the only one that I have seed for, is what I should say. I discovered the rest of the seed in my cabinet were all for bush beans, and I don't know if that wasn't intentional, in the sense that I definitely wanted to buy more beans, do like a Kentucky Wonder or some kind of green bean. Somehow I didn't. Somehow I just bought bush beans. So I'll probably patronize a nursery, because normally, I buy my seeds online, but if I'm only buying a couple of packets of different kinds of pole beans or something, that's not enough to really warrant a full seed order online. I got 3 of these guys left. I want to plant them, but I don't have any room here. So, oh, 4 right there. So maybe what I'll do is I'll whip up another tray of something else I'm going to plant out like this, and then I will then I'm not going to do beans next, because my bush beans don't have to go in right now, or I'm not on a clock with those. Runners could have been planted weeks ago, a little bit on a clock there. And the rest of it I'm not necessarily on a clock for, but it's time. It's time to start to get my zucchinis and summer squash and even my pumpkins, all that stuff in the ground. So all that stuff in seed, I should say. So there's the scarlet runners. I'm going to run those down to the garage, and then I can plant some more stuff. So next up is cucumbers, which is ironic because I don't really like to eat cucumbers, but I like to grow them and give them away. I guess if I pickled them, I would eat them. I've tried some of the different flavors and stuff. Cucumber's just one of those things that I've never really into. But maybe if I just keep trying it, I'll get around to it at some point in my long life. I've got multiple varieties here, so that the irony is going to be somewhat funny to you all as you see how many cucumbers I'm planting for someone who doesn't like to eat them. To start with, I like the Armenian cucumber. I like the nice big one. It's very showy in the garden to have a nice big cucumber. Gives you a lot of fruit. I'm going to give that one a go. I'm going to do four plants of that. And so similar to what I did with the summer squash, I'll do 2 seeds in each hole. Okay. And then the last 2, I'll do 2 containers of the lemon cucumbers, a classic in home gardens. I grew it for the first time last year and tried it. Kind of tasted like a cucumber to me. Wasn't super into, but I gave it a try. I'll try it again this year. I've got a couple more varieties that I'll want to plant, but I will save those for my next tray. Label these, and then we're done with that. Okay, it's time for some summer squash. What other summer squash I have here. Let's kind of go through it. I like to try to plant a variety, see that way we get different kinds of things on the dinner table. This is Italian striped zucchini, which I planted last year. It was really great. We got a lot of this and enjoyed it. A little more of a almost meaty kind of flavor to it than kind of your standard Black Beauty zucchini. I'm going to plant 2 seeds. situation, it is that one is for a backup and the other is for, yeah, one is what will ultimately survive, and then another one is a backup. What I'll do is once both germinate, I will kill off one just so that roots aren't competing, because this is something that is you think you can transplant well if you take care, but often the seed packet will say doesn't transplant. So beware, or be nice to the roots, kind of thing. So that's what we want to do, is we want to be really gentle with the roots. And you notice I'm using big containers here. I only have a limited number of these of this size. I'll use other containers that are of similar size, maybe a little bit smaller, but in general I'm using bigger containers to plant these seeds. Thinking how many pots of this, because I think I'll only do 4 pots of each variety, because as you know, my space is limited here at the driveway garden, and that'll give me ideally one of each variety that is good, maybe a second one of a variety that, and then a couple more as backups if needed. But that'll be it. I won't have room or need to be growing on a lot more. So we've got 4 containers there of the Italian striped. And then what else can I plant here? This one, Romanesco, is a ribbed type of zucchini or summer squash. Again, I like the texture of this, a little bit different than your standard zucchini. Let's see how many seeds I have of this one. Ooh, I only have 2 seeds of this one, so 1 pot of this. And I'm gonna start labeling so I don't forget what I've got going on here. I don't wanna label each pot right now. I may ultimately do that later, but I'm gonna try to make myself infer what the others are based on the label that's nearby. We'll see how that works. I laugh because I always forget what's planted where. Okay, so Romanesco is gone. Got plenty of these Italian striped zucchini to wait for next year. And now what I have is the classic Black Beauty. Like the classic as well. I kept saying the others give me a different texture other than the classic. I didn't mean to say that as if I don't like the classic. I like it all. So I try to grow a variety if I can. How many seeds do I have here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 2. If I put 2 seeds in each, 3 pots of it. So I'm going to do 3. I'm going to do the label twice because of the way those are spaced. I'll lose track of which one's which on that. Okay, so I've got 2 more slots in this tray. Do that. So let me see, which one do I want to prioritize right away here? Okay, I've got 3 more kinds here, but I'm gonna do, I have 2 kinds of yellow squash, so I'll do this. How many I have of this cube of butter squash? Oh, I only have 2 seeds of the cube of butter. So we'll do that. Got a lot of seeds of this other early prolific straight neck. I know what I'm gonna do. I'll tell you in a second. So that's my cube of butter. I only have 1 planting of that. So we'll cross our fingers that it works out to give me some yellow squash, although I'll have this other one that I can do. And then I've got these that I've been growing off this packet forever. These are some patty pan squash. Like these vines are like indeterminate. They just go and go, and I just like how these come out. Urus doesn't like to actually eat them, which I don't know why. I mean, I think they taste like summer squash, and I mean, they're a little more firmer texture or whatever, but I just think the shape being different kind of throws my family off. So I'm gonna put a few seeds of that in here. I'm just gonna grow 1 pot of that because I'm the only one that really likes it anyway. I like the look of it in the garden, so. There's still packets that just keeps on giving. I mean, you look at this right away and you'd say, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different summer squash plants. How am I possibly going to fit that in my small driveway garden? And I'm not. I mean, I'm going to fit 5 or 6 of them probably, and then the others will be backups or given away or will fail. That's pretty much how it goes. All right, so this tray is ready. I don't know if I can get a humidity dome on top of this, so I may have to just let it germinate without it. That's not a deal killer by any means. Okay, this is the straight neck, yellow straight neck squash. I only got 1 of the cube of butter summer squash, which is my other yellow variety. So I'm gonna do a few of these just so I can make sure I have yellow on the table. I don't really feel like it tastes a whole lot different. Actually, the Cuba butter actually does taste different though. So there are differences there, but I am actually, just to make this round out evenly, I'm gonna do 4 here. So that'll give me 5 different plants of a yellow summer squash variety. And I'm gonna put that away, and that is the end of my summer squash there, all planted. All right, what's gonna be next here? Are another one of those things that you typically might plant directly. I've done it that way because I found it hard to transplant, but I also have transplanted and it's kind of worked. So I'm going to transplant this year. I'm using the slightly bigger cell trays for that here. And I've got a couple of varieties here. Got the black velvet nasturtiums. I like this kind of colored flowers. I find fun. It says special germination, soak seeds in water for 12 hours before darkness aids germination. Yeah, I'm not going to really soak it in water. That would help, but this is wet enough. I think it'll work out. Poking holes. These are pretty relatively larger seeds. Just a little bit larger, almost the size of a beet seeds, but just a little bit larger. Do my 2 in each hole here. I'm gonna plant the whole packet because it's not like there's that many in this packet. Everything in my hand there was the whole packet. I'm not complaining. I mean, I think it's enough for what I paid for, what I need anyway. So got a few extra seeds here. 3, 4, 5, 6. I could do one. Yeah, I'll do 1 6-pack with just 1 in each one to finish off these. So perfect, done. Okay, that are the black velvet nasturtiums. I've got these Melba nasturtiums, which I also planted these last year, and I liked the look of these, so I'm happy to do these again. I think I actually saw one earlier today that was blooming that was overwintered from last year. I actually don't know if it actually overwinters or if it's just that the seed fell and it reseeded itself. That's more likely, I guess. Yeah, that's just enough to do a 6-pack there. Do a label for that one. Okay, now I've got these trays here. I still had those scarlet runner beans over. Would normally use a slightly bigger tray for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and plant those here since I've got the tray space. Get that done. There's only 4 of those. And then this size tray, I think this would be kind of, I'm using this size tray. I wasn't necessarily going to do this today, but I'll go ahead and do some beans while I'm here because I got some tray space to use. You know what I think might have happened is that they may have, either I clicked on a bush bean or they sent me a bush bean when I intended a pole bean. Could have been my fault, I don't know. But I've got like Blue Lake, and yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have intentionally got that many bush beans, so I think that I did. Something goofy did happen there. Some dry shelling beans, actually, yin yang dry shelling beans. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do the edible beans. I'll start with some of these bush beans here, and just 1 per. I don't double up on the beans. I don't know why. I guess you could make the argument that 1 could fail and I could get, but I don't know. I feel like I like to grow lots and lots of beans if I can, so I treat the seed as a little more precious, I guess, for that reason. All right. Got more to plant on that, but that'll be it for now for those yellow beans. And I never labeled my scarlet runners that were sitting there, so let me do that real quick. Okay, well, I'm afraid I'll have to be done for today. I got things to do before it gets to be too late, and yeah, I'll be back at it tomorrow. We've got lots more to plant. Flowers and zinnias and winter squashes and pumpkins and corn. Yeah, all kinds of summery stuff. I always enjoy this point in the season because the garden feels full of promise. Some beds are still holding on to spring, while others are just beginning to imagine summer. Of course, not everything will work perfectly. Some seeds may sulk, something may get nibbled, a few plans will almost certainly need adjusting. But that's part of the rhythm of it. We plant, we watch, we learn, and then we try again. I'd love to hear what summer veggies and flowers you may be planting at this point. Do let me know down in the comments. Thanks for gardening with me, and I will see you in the next one.